Good evening. I hope you are all doing well. Today we are learning Maseches Sanhedrin Daf Tes and as well Daf Yud Amud Aleph. We'll be learning until about three-fourths of the way down, maybe 12 lines from the bottom, which is where we are going to stop. But right now in the middle of a sugya, we're trying to figure out the machlokes Rav Meir and the Chachamim, this weird phraseology that according to Rav Meir, he only requires 3 dayanim, and according to the sheet of the Chachamim, we need 23. What in the world could there be? What are they arguing about? So somebody pointed out to me in the base medrash. It's amazing that there's eight different answers to this machlokas as we are on the nights of Hanukkah. Well, cute. I don't know if it's emes, but it's emes that there's 8. I don't know if there's a hashkafa or a Rabbi Schechter-esque type of gematria. I don't know. So we're currently at answer number 5, which is the very, very bottom line of Chesed Beis, and says the Gemara, Rav Ashi Yomar, that the machlokas where Rav Meir says that we need 3 edim, and where the Chachamim say we need 23 is turning to the top of Testament Aleph is Kigon, the Asru Bei Malkos, velo Asru Bei Ktalam, where the edim gave Hasra for Malkos, but they didn't give Hasra for murder. And this is a machlokas Tanaim if when Malkos was the Hasra, do we need 3 or 23? The Kamiflage beplugta de Rabbi Shmuel v'Rabbana. That's not. Makos b'shlosha, mishum Rabbi Shmuel amru be'esrim b'shlosha. So this is a shtekelu kimta. It's a little bit of a specific case where what we are saying is that we're talking about giving Malkos. And Malkos is not murder. Malkos is not murder in a classical way, but l'chora, it's in that gray area enough where it, according at least to the Chachamim, would warrant having a bezdin of esrim v'shlosha. Answer number 6, 4 lines down on Testament Aleph, the Gemara says, Ravina Amar, kigon shenimtza echad min ha'edim karov pasal. Now we, balabatim, typically think that the second we see that there's an aid that's a karov or a pasal, that instantly everyone, oile rasha, oile shcheno, that everyone is pasal. We're going to learn now a unique shita where that's not always true. But in order to get there, we have to develop this response. So let's remember our question of what's the machlokas of Meir who says 3 edim and 3 dayanim, and the Chachamim who say 23 dayanim. The case is going to be where we find one of the edim is a karav or a pasal, but the answer is really not going to be until the top of the next page. This is a lengthier response. Let's get into it. The kamiflage beplugta de Rabbi Yossi v'Rebbe. Really, we're talking about a machlokas between Rabbi Yossi and Rebbe, but aliba de Rabbi Akiva. What is the Rabbi Akiva shita? Ditnan. Rabbi Akiva Omer lo bash shlishi. If we have a case where there is a third aid, lo bash shlishi elo lahachmer lo la'asos dino kayotze be'elu. What that means is as follows. Let's say there's 2 edim who saw something. Good. What if there's 3 edim? We don't really need the third aid. But what if there is a third aid? So Rabbi Akiva says, even though we only need 2, but if there is a third guy, it's lahachmer lav la'asos dino kiyotze be'elu. That whatever the halachos are that apply to the 2 core edim, the third aid has the same exact din. Im Kain, says the Gemara, and this is really like a diuk hashkafa sidebar, onashakasu es hanitzva le'ovre avera ke'ovre avera. The third guy, who was just kind of tethered or connected to the primary 2, he's treated like an ovre avera. So if you associate yourself with these 2 edim and something bad happens to them, let's say they become edim zomim and you join them, the same thing is true by a mitzvah, but Kol Shekain, says the Gemara, alachas kama v'kama, all the more so, she'eshalim scharas hanitzva le'ose mitzvah ke'ose mitzvah. That let's say 2 people are doing a mitzvah and I join them, I also join them, but the Gemara says alachas kama v'kama. So this is a little bit difficult. What's the alachas kama v'kama? If a bad guy joins the bad guys, he becomes a bad guy. If the good guy joins the good guys, he becomes a good guy. But the Gemara says that when it comes to good, it's alachas kama v'kama. So take a look at a beautiful Rashi, and this Rashi quotes a Marim Makom that we are familiar with from Maseches Yoma. Rashi, halfway down, a little bit more, Dibra Maskal, Kal v'chomer she'eshalim schar, Tekayim alon, Mida tova meruba mimidas pur anus. Hilkach kal v'chomeru. You're right. If you're a bad guy and you join Edim who are going to become Edim Zomamin, you're down for the count. But if you do something good, because Midas Tova is Meruba Mimidas Pur Anos, then you're going to have a much better reward. But if you have to choose between joining the good guys or joining the bad guys, just remember that they're not equal and opposite. It's much better to join the good guys. If joining the bad guys is a -10, joining the good guys isn't a +10, it's a +100. Because, what?
500 per.
What?
All 500.
Why are you saying that?
Mida Tova is better than a bad Mida by 500 times.
Why are you saying that?
Because it says in the Gimel Midos that he'll be Porea from 4 generations. No, that's a Lofim, 2,000. 2,000 is 500 times 4. I didn't make that up.
You should be giving the Friday night Dvar Torah. That's Kabbalah right there.
No, it's a Gemara.
I know it's math. I've just never. Did we learn it?
That Mida Tova.
Well, I guess in Yoma we learned it.
Maybe not, but Mida Tova is
500 to 1.
I think it's in
Makos? I feel so much better because we haven't learned that yet.
We haven't there yet.
Yeah, Chas Hashem. Although we very well could have learned it, and I should feel bad. The fact that I don't
I
know,
wouldn't be surprised if we could see it along the way,
Right.
yes.
I did not fulfill the din of Mechudad and Beficha, that's for sure. Let's continue.
Just that, right.
I'm trying. I am trying. I think the tiredness is preventing things from sticking. So the Gemara continues a little bit more than halfway down. Umashnaim nimtza echad mehen karav upasel edusan betela. And just like if there are 2 edim, and one of them turns out to be a relative to one of the Baalei Din or to the other aid, he's pasel and edusan betela. Now their edus is down the toilet. Even if there's a third guy, the first 2 guys are perfect edim, they're not related to anybody. The third guy is related, all 3 of them, baby and bathwater, gone. How do we know that even if there were 100 edim, and only one of the 100 edim was a karov or a pasel? Talmud Lomar edim, the pasuk says in plural. The whole pasuk is al pi shnaim edim o shlosha edim yumas hames lo yumas al pi ed echad. Any number, edim in the plural. It's a little interesting because what did you expect them to say? Al pi shnaim edim o al pi shlosha edim. It says the word edim twice. Oh, that must be the taich. Is that because it has an extra word edim, it must mean that up to any number, basically, if any of the large group of edim, even though we only need 2 edim, we only need 2 edim. But if any one of the many that you bring are pasel, then you're down for the count. Now, all of this is Rabbi Akiva, which is to say that the extra guy just joins his brothers in arms, whatever they are. Good things, bad things, bad things. Now, Amar Rabbi Yossi, teaching on Rabbi Akiva. Bamedvar ma'amurim that we say edusan betela. Rabbi Yossi holds that when is it that the third guy ruins it for the first 2? That's true, but dinei nefashos. Oh, we need to change our numbers now. The 24th guy ruins it for all 23 because it's dinei nefashos. Aval bedinei mamanis, but when it comes to dinei mamanis and there's 3 guys, tiskaim edus peshar. If the third guy is the train wreck karov or pasel, it doesn't ruin the sha'ar, and the edus is miskayim. That's the shita of Rabbi Yossi, that by dinei nefashos we would say edusan betela, even if there's 100 guys, doesn't matter. That was the chiddush of Rabbi Akiva, but he limits Rabbi Akiva by dinei mamanis. What does Rabbi say? Rabbi Omer, echad dinei mamanis ve'echad dinei nefashos. It doesn't matter. In all cases, we would say edusan betela. The Amosai, when is this true? Bisman shehisru bahen. When do we say that a karov, this is so unique. Rabbi's shita here is shocking. Shocking for Amaratim, which is me. The Amosai, when is it true that we say that a karov or apostle ruins an edus, that edusan betela? Bisman shehisru bahen. When there was hasra'ah that was given, namely when the karov or apostle gave edus. Aval bizman shelo hisru bahen. If the karov or the pasel, they were not the ones who gave hasra. Look at this line, top of Testament Beis. Ma yasu shnei achim ve'echad shero be'echad sheharages hanefesh. You're going to say that 2 brothers and another guy that witnessed a man being murdered, that the guy just gets off scot-free. What Rebbe holds is jarring. That even though one of the guides is a karov or apostle, But if the person who gave the hasra was not the karav or the puzzle, edusan is not psula. Edusan kayemes. Very mechudash. And therefore, how does this apply? Remember where we started. How does this apply to Rav Meir and the Chachamim? Rav Meir holds like Rav Yossi, that when it comes to dinei mamanis, we only need 3. And he holds that by dinei mamanis, we do have this din, according to Rav Yossi, that by dinei mamanis, tiskaim edus b'sha'ar, that the two are able to withstand their own, are able to give their own edus, even if the third guy doesn't work. Masha'ein kain, according to the Rabbanon, they clearly hold like Rebbe. That was the 6th answer. Here is the 7th answer. Daf Tesamid Beis, 2 lines on V'bay Sema, Kigon Shehisru Ba'acherim. Maybe the people who gave the hasra, the formal warning of, hey, if you do this, Bezdin's going to kill you, give you malchus, whatever. Maybe it was not the Eidim. V'lo Hisru Ba'edim, it was a third party. So you have the guy doing the crime, Eidim watching up close, and a third party giving the hasra, wait, don't do what you're about to do. So in this case, do we need 3 or 23? The kamifla gave a plug to the Rabbi Yossi, v'Rabbanan ditnan. Rabbi Yossi omer la'olam eino nerag achu pishnei edim masrin bo. We need the 2 edim themselves giving nasra, and therefore, in this case, we don't need 23. We only need 3, because since the asra was given by a third party and not the edim, this isn't the case of capital punishment anymore, because asra was given by a third party. Shenamar al pi shnayim edim. These guys have to do it. That's answer number 7. And the 8th and final answer of what the machlokas of Meir and the Rabbanan is, v'ibay seima, 5, 6, 7 lines down, kigon de iskachush bebedikos, v'lo iskachush bechakiros. We know that when there are edim, they're brought into Bezdin, and Bezdin will assess the edim bedrishos v'chakiros. They'll ask them drishos and chakiros, or in this case, the language is kind of swapped, a synonym of bedikos v'chakiros. The baseline questions that are asked: how did he kill? What did he kill with? What time of day was it? Those are the chakiros. The bedikos are the verifications that taka, you're telling the truth. And they would ask contextual questions that only real witnesses would know. So says the Gemara as follows: the kamiflage beplukta de rabban de ben zakai v'rabbanon. Ditnan. Maisa, there was a story. Ubadak ben zakai beuktzei te'enim. There was a case where Edim came to Bezdin. And Ben Zakkai, Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, asked him not a critical question, but a contextual question, and said, how thick were the connection points on the Te'enim? Were they thick or were they thin? And the guy didn't know the answer. The Edim didn't know. He threw the case out. It's no longer capital punishment. Don't tell me that you're an aid to see the murder when you don't know all the details, which is a very, very high level of edus. But what that is, that's a sensitivity that when we do capital punishments, the Eidim really have to know their stuff. So he held in such a case, you only need 3 Eidim. Once we reject the Eidim because of the bedikos of, in this case, the Uktzei Te'enim, you only need 3 Eidim. According to the Rabbanon, the bedikos don't uproot the Chakiros, and therefore they still need 23. That ends our sugya of Rav Meir and the Rabbanon. Now we're going to get into a complex sugya that is a mix of Eidim Zomamin, along with Kamle B'Derabba Minei. So please hold on tight. Says the Gemara halfway down on Daf Tesamid Beis. Amar Rav Yosef, Hevi Abal Eidim Shezinsa. A man gets married on a Sunday. He's together with his wife. And the next morning, he senses that Pesach Pasuach Matzasi, and Eidim show up and say, we saw your wife being Nizana. So the Eidim show up. She's going to get killed if this is true, right? Okay. Then, the Hevi Ha'av, then the father of the bride shows up. He brings Eidim, V'hizimum le'edei Habal. The Eidim of the husband, who said she cheated and that they witnessed, they were turned into Eidim Zomamin. Now, what did the Eidim who said she cheated, what were they hoping to accomplish? They were hoping to get her killed. So therefore, Eidei Habal Nehergen, they get killed. Because what they were trying to do was get her killed. So we have 2 sets of Eidim. Eidim number 1 were the Eidim of the Baal, the Eidim of the husband of the wife. Hey, we saw your wife cheating. This is Ruvain and Shimon are the Eidim. Then the next set of Eidim belonged to the Eidim of the father of the bride of Levi and Yehuda. Levi and Yehuda are the Eidim. They said, Reuven and Shimon were with us out of town. They were with us in Canada. There's no way they could have given that Eidus. So basically, when we have the Eidei Hazama, they've turned Eidim number one, Reuven and Shimon, the Eidim who said Shazinsa, that she cheated. When we turned them into Eidim Zomamin, so then Eidei Habal Nehergen, Reuven and Shimon get killed. But ve'ein mishalmin mamon. But even though they ruined the Eidus, and now she's not getting killed, that means that there's Motzi Shemra. Now you're saying that the Eidim were wrong. That means that those Eidim who are getting killed don't have to pay for the Motzi Shemra. Why not? Because as the Gemara adds over here on the side, the Hagos Vitzionim adds, the Kamle B'derabamine. Eidim number one, who became Eidim Zomamid, they did two things. They tried to get her killed, and they were Motzi Shemra. They were malshin on her. They said that she did something that she didn't do. So they're chayiv two things. They're chayiv to be killed because they tried to get her killed. And the halacha by Eidim Zomamin is that which the Eidim tried to bring about, tried to effectuate on her, applies to her, they get killed. But they were Motzi Shemra, that she was Mizana. Yeah, but Kan Levi Derabamine. So Eidim number one only get one punishment. Now, hold on tight. All of this so far, so good. We're good? We understand. Eidim number one, they get killed, but there's no financial consequence. What if Chazar v'hevi abal Eidim v'hizimum le'edei av? Now we have three kita Eidim. Reuven v'Shimon said she cheated. Levi v'Yehuda said, you can't say she cheated, Reuven and Shimon. You were with me in Canada. And then Yisachar and Zvulun show up and say, wait, Levi v'Yehuda, you can't say that Reuven v'Shimon are Eidim Zomamin because you were with me in Panama. So now we have a triple layer of Eidim over here. So the din is Eidei ha'av nehergen. The middle class of Eidim, Levi v'Yehuda, they get killed. Because once they were found to be Eidim Zomamin, the second class of Eidim, Levi v'Yehuda, once we found out they're Eidim Zomamin, what did they try to do? They would try to be Mazim, the first class, and get them killed, which means that they should then get killed. And as well, Umeshalman Mamon. But they have to pay. Why do they have to pay? Because Mamon lazeh nefashos lazeh. Because even though in one action they brought about two different nafkaminas, they brought about two different halachic realities, but the people they tried to kill was Kas Sheni, so they deserve death for that. But the monetary damage was on her. It's not different people. So Afal that there are two chiyuvim on that set of Eidim that they deserve two things, but because the two things didn't apply to the same person, therefore they're chayiv in both. They're obligated both to die, and before they die, they have to pay the kala because they were motzi shemra. Beautiful. So sophisticated. A blend, again, as mentioned, a blend between the worlds of Eidim Zomamin and Kam Levi Derabamini.
Hopefully these are just theoretical.
I hope every last bit of this is theoretical. The fact that they were choshesh that she cheated, the fact that the Eidim that said Shazinsa were wrong, and that the two levels of Eidim Zomamin were also, of course, we hope that none of this is true. But the Gemara highlights a super important point here, that the scope of Kamle B'derabamine has a limit. Kamle B'derabamine isn't always true. It doesn't apply when the two crimes apply to two different people. If the larger punishment applies to group one, and the smaller punishment applies to a different person, we don't say Kamle B'derabamine. Only when those two dinim apply to the same person. Okay. I remember learning this sugya in Grus 25 years ago. I don't remember all of it, but when I read it today, I'm like, this looks vaguely familiar.
What's gross?
The Grus Kolal, it's the base medrash in Eretz Yisrael when I was learning for YU Smicha. Little bubble. Lamar of Yosef, Ploni, there was a man, Reva'o la'onso. A man was violated, was sodomized, and it was an ones. So the guy who was the victim Hu ve'achar mitzarfim lahargo. The victim can be an aid, and another person can be the second aid, lahargo, to kill the violator. That's very unique because he was the victim. He functions as a witness halachically. However, what if the guy said lirtzono? Yes, there was a case of violation, but the victim was a willing participant. So there we have a problem. When the guy was not beratzon, so he can be an aid. But if he's beratzon, then he's a rasha. Liritzono rasha uvator amar al tashes rasha aid. You can't be an aid. You can be an aid if you're violated. You can't be an aid if you're a willing participant. Because if you do an Isser Lav, you become a rasha. And a rasha cannot be an aid. So you can only be an aid if you were violated, but not an aid if you were a willing participant. However, Rava disagrees entirely. Rava Amar, you can't make yourself a rasha. Of course your aidus counts. Adam karovet alatzmo. A person is a karov. They're considered to have a closeness to themselves. The ein adam mesim atzmo rasha. And Rashi over here highlights an idea as follows. He says beautifully, if a man says, I was violated but willingly, we do what's called palginan dibura. We believe you when you say I was violated. And you can be an aid, and the guy who violated you can be killed with a second aid coupling with you. But you cannot make yourself a rasha. So we do what's called palginan dibura. Ploni Riviani, this man violated me. I can be an aid for that. Liritzono, as a willing... we don't listen to that part of the sentence. So we draw a line. I was violated willingly. We put a brick wall between those two things. I was violated, Riviani, sodomy. I can be an aid. I can testify against the guy who violated, and he can be put to death as long as there was a second aid to witness. But it's Eina the Mesim Atzmo Russia. I can't say Liritzono and have it be binding. So therefore, I'm allowed to put the first guy to death, but I'm not allowed to put myself to death. Afalpi, that I did an Isser Lava Toeva. So Machlokes Amoraim, if a person can be an aid to their own crime if they were willing. If they were unwilling, everyone agrees that he can be an aid. But the moment that he says Liritzono, Rava says Palginon Dibura, and the other Shita does not say that way. Rav Yosef says, no Palginon Dibura. He's just a rasha. He made himself a rasha. So says the Gemara, wait 1 second. You want to tell me, Rava, that we learn from here Palginon Dibura? Omar Rava, turning to the top of Yud Amid Aleph. I have another case that looks almost identical. Ploni Ba'al Ishti. If a man says that so-and-so violated my wife, who, the husband who knows that a man violated his wife, the acher, and a second unrelated witness, who ve'acher mitzdarfen lahor go, they can kill the man who slept with her. However, avalo lahor go, we're not allowed to kill her. So he said, this is also palginon dibura. Look at this. Ploni ba, a man violated a woman. Al ishti, on my wife. So we trust the husband's edus as it relates to the man who violated. But we don't trust the husband's edus as it relates to his wife. So it's lahor go, we kill the man who slept with her, but we don't kill her. My kamashmalan, dimifalginon bidibura? Are you trying to tell me that we learn from here palginon dibura? Rava already taught me palginon dibura. Ploni Riviani Liritzoni. I already know about palginon dibura. So why in the world Rava, same person? Look at the last two words on the page. Amar Rava. Rava who taught us palginon dibura, that Ploni Riviani, break. You cannot say Liritzoni. He says Palginon Dibura over there. You're saying again over here Palginon Dibura. that only lehorgo and not lehorga? That makes no sense. Hainu hach, says the Gemara. And this has become a modern catchphrase. Hainu hach. These two things are the same. Don't teach me palgin and dibura twice, Rava. Save your words. So Zog the Gemara an answer. No, we need both cases. We need Rava to teach the case of Ploni Riviani Liritzoni, to teach the basic principles of Palgina Dibura. And we need the case of Ploni Baal Ishti also for Palgina Dibura, but with a Chiddush. What's the Chiddush of the new case, the case on the top of Yud and Aleph? Ma'udetema, Adam Karov Eitzel Atzmo Amrinan. Maybe we would say that a person is Karov Eitzel Atzmo, that a person is a Karov to himself. That we know that a person says, according to Rava. Eitzel Ishto Lo Amrinan. But perhaps a husband is not considered a Karov as it relates to his wife. Kamash Malon. I might have thought that as it relates to my wife, I'm not a Karov. And therefore, there is no Palgina Dibura in this case. That if a man witnesses his wife being violated by Ploni Almoni, he can testify both against that man and against his wife. Because maybe he's not a Karov Eitzel Ishto. Kamash Malan, he's a Karov Eitzel Ishto. And therefore, Palgina Dibura, even in this case where it's his wife, Havamina, that we would have thought that there's no Karov Eitzel Ishto, Kamash Malan Eitzel Ishto, we do say that he is a Karov. Good. 5 lines down. Yudam and Aleph. Says the Gemara, V'marava Ploni ba al na'arahamu rasa v'huzmu. I witnessed a man violate a particular betrothed woman. I don't know who she is. And then I became Huzam. Eidim became Huzam. The Eidim who said that a man slept with this woman, this engaged woman, they became Huzam. Nehergen ve'ein mishalmin mamon. They are Nehergen, they get killed, but there is no money to be placed here. Rashi says that money is talking about something unique, the Tovas Hanaos Ksubasa. We're not going to focus on this now, but there was a monetary component in their lie. But that's because the only reason why we say that Ve'ein Mishalman Mamon is because we didn't know who the woman was. However, Bito Shel Ploni V'huzmu, if I know exactly who the girl was, who was violated, and I witnessed it, and then the Eidim became Huzam, Neherginu Mashalman Mamon Lazeh Nefashos Lazeh, just like we saw earlier. Here, if the Eidim supposedly witnessed the crime, and they know specifically who the girl was, so Mamon Lazeh, the money goes to the girl, Unefashos Lazeh, and the death that takes place because of Eidim Zomamin, that goes to the Eidim. So like we said on the previous Amud, when we talk about the principle of Kamle B'derabamine, that when somebody earns a double consequence in the same moment, the greater consequence overrides the lesser consequence, that doesn't apply when the two consequences apply to different people. So if I'm mazim a set of Eidim, the Eidim have to die, but if there's a monetary punishment to somebody else other than the Eidim, then I have to fulfill both, similar as we saw before. Similarly, the Amar Rava, Ploni Rava Hashor v'huzmu, a man makes a claim, Eidim make a claim that Ploni Almoni sodomized an animal, and then that set of Eidim became Huzam. The halacha is Nehergen ve'ein mishalmin mamon. They get killed, but they don't have to pay any money. Rashi here says Demei Hashor, Delo Yad'inan Manu. We don't know which animal it is, so they don't have to pay. However, Shoro Shel Ploni, similar to the din before, that if we know whose animal it is, v'huzmu, then Nehergen u'mishalmin mamon, mamon lazeh nefashos lazeh. But when we know who the animal belongs to, so then, like before, both consequences apply. I come lebedirav. No, not in this case. The Eidim die, and the money goes to the Baal Hashor. Asks the Gemara, Hasul Amali, why do I need 2 different cases to tell me? You gave me the case of Na'ara Murasa, and you gave me the case of the shore, Plona Rava Hashor. Hainu Hach, says the Gemara, a quarter of the way down. Says the Gemara, Mishum de Kaboy Boya Ilave. The reason why this case was brought is because this was actually a kasha that was brought by Rava. The boy Rava, Ploni Rava Shorimau. If witnesses say that they saw a man violate my shore, Mi'amrin an adam karov etzel atzmo, ve'ein adam karov etzel mamono, o dilma amrin an adam karov etzel mamono. Rava was torn. Do we say that a person is a karov? They're like a relative as it relates to edus, as it relates to their own property, yes or no? Says the Gemara, and this will bring us to the first set of two dots on the page. Basar debaya hadar pashta. After Rava asked the question, he answered his own question. Adam karov etzel atzmo. Pashut, that a person is considered a karov as it relates to himself. The ein adam karov etzel mamono. But a person is not considered a karov as it relates to his own money. Beautiful. One last little sugya for tonight. It will take us to the two dots, 10 lines from the bottom of the page. We're just about halfway down. Let's start this last little sugya for tonight. Makos bishlosha. Minani mili. How do we know that makos have to be with three people? Amar Avhuna, Amar Kra, ushvatum. The pasuk says in Dvarim Chafei, Ki yeh riv bein anashim v'nikshu el hamishpat ushvatum. They should be judged. They is plural. Shnayim, that's two. The ein bezdin shakel. And we're not allowed to have a bezdin that's even, because what if it's mano y mano? What if it's 1v1 by the end? Therefore, mosif leim od echad harei kan shlosha. Says the Gemara, if the way you're getting to three is by saying ushvatum is two and ein bezdin shakel, well, I don't know if you saw the pasuk, but there's other words in the pasuk that are also plural. Elamayatav stiku is also shnayim, and Vihirshiu is also shnayim. Harei kan shiva. We have ushvatum, we have itztiku, we have Hirshiu, 2, 4, 6, ein bezdin shakel should be 7. Mecha tesi 3. If you're going to look at ushvatum and say it's plural, what about itztiku? And what about Hirshiu? So it says the Gemara, you can't argue like that, because the words of hitztiku and Hirshiu are used for other things. Says the Gemara halfway down, hahumi boile ula. The words hitztiku and Hirshiu are used by ula. The omar ula. And listen to this weird question. Remez la'edim zomamin min haTorah minayin. Where do we see a hint of edim zomamin in the Torah? Asks the Gemara incredulously. Remez la'edim zomamin? V'hoksiv kasher zomam. That's not called a hint. That's black on white. That's mamish mukaf gvul. That's a pasuk in Chumash. Why are you saying remez? So the Gemara says, no. You're 100% right. I know what the pasuk says. Ela remez le'edim zomamin shelokin. That when the punishment isn't an obvious executable punishment, then how do we know we give them malkos? Dichsiv v'yitztiku es hatzadik v'yirshiu es harasha. Says the Gemara. That's how we know that we have shlosha by makos. The pasuk says ushvatum. You asked me about itztiku and Hirshiu. No, those words aren't available. The words Yitztiku and Hirshiu are there to teach me that Eidim get malkos when the punishment cannot be meted out, the actual desire that they wished to mete out. Then when that happens, so then they get this punishment. Ask the Gemara, Mishum Yitztiku es hatzadik v'Hirshiu es harasha? What about, why are we using these words of Yitztiku es hatzadik v'Hirshiu es harasha? We have a pasuk about malkos already. So says the Gemara, Ela Eidim shirshiu es hatzadik. Really what the pasuk is talking about. When there were Eidim that were marshia the tzaddik. They said the good guy was the bad guy. The osu Eidei achrini v'tztiku es hatzadik de meikara. And they corrected it. The Eidim came along and said, no, those first Eidim that said that you were bad were wrong. Really, you're a tzaddik. V'shavinu lahanach rishaim. And these guys, the first set of Eidim that were Hirshiu es hatzadik were rishaim. Then v'hayoim bina kos harasha. Then we have malkos. That's how we know Eidim Zomamin get malkos when the typical punishment cannot be meted out. Asks the Gemara, the tepuk le milo sa'aneh. This is a pasuk in Shmos Kaf. The pasuk says, lo sirtzach, lo sinaf, lo signov, v'lo sa'aneh v'reacha eid shaker. Maybe we would learn from there, lo sa'aneh, that you lied. And because you lied, Mr. Eid Zomain, you're chayv malkos. Says the Gemara, no. Mishum dehavale lav shein bo maisa. Eidim zomimin is a lav that has no maisa to it. Cholav shein bo maisa ein loken alav. If I only looked at the world of lo sa'aneh v'reacha shaker, I would have had a problem. The principle in halacha is that when I do a lav that has no maisa, I don't get malkos. What action did Eidim zomimin do? They spoke. is speech considered a Maisa as it relates to Malkos? This is a Machlokes and Sugas. This was the one thing I remembered from 25 years ago, as whether or not we say, this is a Machlokes and Sugas. Our Sugya holds that the Dibur of the Eidim Zomamin is not a Maisa as it relates to Malkos. Other Sugyas hold otherwise. But here, we say that the reason why we needed the pasuk of here, Itztiku es HaTzadik v'Yeshu es HaRasha, is because if we relied on the typical pasuk of Lo Saneh, we would have made an error and assumed that Eidim Zomamin don't get Malkos because it's a Lav She'ein Bo Maisa. Kamash Malan, that you're right, it's a Lav She'ein Bo Maisa, but there's a Chiddush Dikadin that by Eidim Zomamin, Afal Pi that there's no Maisa, Itztiku es HaTzadik v'Yeshu es HaRasha, that there would be Malkos. We'll stop right here. Mir Hashem on Shabbos. We'll pick up with the next Amud and the next blot on Yud Aleph. A lot to learn. These blot are getting kind of long. So we'll stop right here. Wishing you all a beautiful night.